So we don't want to be control freak type of parents, and we don't want to be the type of mom that just collapses into bed at the end of the day and is just utterly exhausted. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you some of the things that I do that kind of get me out of that mindset. Welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler. Today I'm going to talk about one of the things that I talked about in the Generations Conference just a short time ago. And it was really about kind of not being a control freak in your own homeschool, and really about how I just had to give up control over my own homeschool in different ways to help me thrive. So I had a lot of time to talk about this topic, and I had so many questions popping up in the chat about this, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of expand upon some of these things because I was asked quite a bit about it. And if you are coming to my channel from there, welcome. I hope that you enjoy this video, and if this interests you, make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you can get all the videos and things that I post about homeschooling. So my first year of homeschooling looks drastically different than my 10th year of homeschooling, which after this year, it will be 10 years, which is crazy. The differences between the 2 years are just astounding. And I know many of you are just beginning your journey, and some of you might be veteran homeschoolers like me, but my first year of homeschooling, I wasn't chronically ill. I was in my young 30s and I was thriving, and I had a very successful business, and I was the work at home, just shot out of a cannon type mom. And my life does not look like that now. My life is drastically different, and my homeschool has adapted to those changes as my life has changed, because everything centers around the home, and moms are just kind of the heart of the home, aren't they? And so much of our home kind of revolves around me and what I'm doing. And when I have changes in my life, my home kind of changes and adapts with that. And I have to make sure that things kind of run smoothly. And I'm one of those people that I like things to run like a well-oiled machine. And I have systems in place to help me with that. So first, I will say that my chronic illness is very different than a lot of people probably understand. My chronic illness is something called ankylosing spondylitis, and it's a mouthful, and I just call it AS for short. So AS deals with the skeletal system, and it's a pretty rare and pretty severe autoimmune disease, and it's linked to rheumatoid arthritis, which I have. And unfortunately, what it's doing is it's fusing my spine together, and it makes it very difficult and painful for me to walk and to stand. I realized a couple years ago when I started getting sick that there were things that I could not control. And I had to give control of that over to God. And I had to just say, okay, I'm going to trust that you are going to get my family through this, and that you are going to control the situation, because I definitely cannot. And I really could not. There was things that I just could not control. And I just had to hand that worry over to the Lord and just breathe. And it was hard. It was really, really hard, because yes, I can be a control freak, and I like to control my environment. It's where I feel safe. But I learned about 3 to 4 years ago that it's just not in the cards for me to be able to control these things. And it was a hard lesson for me, but a valuable lesson for me. Let's talk about some of these systems. First, independence. Teaching your kids how to be independent is huge. And I basically did that by implementing these things when my kids were younger, because I wanted them to be independent learners. So we started out with lists, and I talked about this in the Generations Conference. What I did was, before they could read, I made them a little clipboard And we had a list of things that they had to do each day. Like they had to work on reading a book, or they had a math worksheet, things like that, like all their things that they had to do. And we would work on crossing off each one so they knew that they were done. Now, by the time they could read, I let them cross off their own things. And then they didn't have to come to me and say, what do I do next after they finish something? And then once they got to older middle school and high school, I basically gave them the teacher book and I said, here's your assignments for the day, go for it. And that's what they do now. Now, I know a lot of people will say, but how do you make sure they don't cheat? You just check. You check on them throughout the day. And there was a little bit of trust that I put in my kids. And I said, okay, I'm going to trust you to do this, but I'm also going to trust you not to cheat. Now, if you don't want to do that, what you can do is you can, especially with the generations books, like the answers are in the back of the teacher book, what you can do is you can get a 3-ring binder and you can make that your answer binder and you can keep that. Tear out the answer keys, put them in the 3-ring binder, and you can just have a whole 3-ring binder full of your answer keys, and you can keep that in your possession. And then when it's time to check the work, there you go. Do it however you want. Now, with some assignments, I have my kids actually look at their own assignments and use the answer key to check their own work. And they'll come to me and tell me like, hey, like I got this wrong. I don't understand this. Here's my grade on it, whatever the case may be. And over time, I feel like this has been a great system. It takes a lot of stress off me and a lot of things that I don't have to do that they're doing themselves, and they will actually grade their own papers. And it gives them that responsibility, and it lets them know that like, hey, I'm trusting you. And I think that they actually appreciate that their parents trust them to do those things. So teaching them that has given them a lot of initiative and has taught them to take control of their school things, and they can move as fast or as slow as they want. Now, I want their daily assignments usually done by the end of the day, and sometimes they leave things for homework, which usually means like after dinner work, which is fine for me. Like if they have a really heavy day, and high schoolers, they have heavy days, that's totally fine. I don't care about that at all. But it makes them feel like they're in control of something, and I think that that's really been helpful for them as they become teenagers. So I consider myself more of a manager of their school. I am not over their shoulder, okay? And my oldest is almost 18. He does not need me hovering over his shoulder, making sure his I's are dotted and his T's are crossed. That's annoying. Nobody wants that. I don't want to be an annoying parent, but I do trust him to do his work. And so far that has worked, and it's been a great system for both of my kids. My youngest is going to be in high school next year. He's in 8th grade this year. He's very independent. He likes working on his own, but that doesn't mean that we don't do some subjects together. Some subjects we actually do together, especially Bible. It's more of like a family worship style for Bible. Their history, we always have discussions about their history. I'm reading their stuff with them, and we are having like family time during these discussions. So it's almost like a book club. Like we read the same book, even if it's a textbook. We read the same book, and then we come together and discuss it. And then at that point, I can check their comprehension. I can make sure that they're on track, that they know what they read, they understand what they read. And then we can expound upon different topics within what they read. We can like go down a rabbit hole somewhere, or we can just expand on that topic a little more, and we can hear about their personal opinions on what they thought about, certain things that they read. So as they get older, I take my hands off more and more, and so far that system has worked beautifully in my house. I plan on continuing it until my second child is out the door and he is launched into college. Now, planning, a lot of you know my planning style has adapted quite a bit since the very beginning of our homeschool. At the beginning of our homeschool, I was very ambitious and planned everything in pen in the summertime. I don't do that anymore. I plan only 1 week ahead at a time, and that allows me to change direction if I need to. That allows me to have breaks where I need them. That allows me to have time for emergencies, like heaven forbid if I have to go into the hospital or something, I don't have 3 weeks of lessons already planned out. That is sitting in my planner that I'm gonna have to rearrange. I plan each weekend. It's kind of just a weekly routine for me. On, you know, Fridays or Saturdays, I sit down with my planner, plan everything out for about 15-20 minutes, and that's it. I try to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible. I do have routines, but I don't have a set schedule. When you have a set schedule in your house, like everything is like on the hour or on the minute, I don't do that. You know, my kids get up when they get up, and then they have this daily routine. They make their breakfast and they get ready for their day, and then they start their schoolwork. And basically the rule is as long as you do it, I don't care what order you do it in. I don't care if you do math first or language arts first, as long as you do both of them. That's my rule. So I try to be pretty flexible with giving them independence with these things and letting them make their own decisions, but at the same time still overseeing and managing the homeschool. A note about that, just as an educator, when kids have a little bit of control, they usually thrive in that type of environment. And the other thing that they really enjoy is a routine. And I've made that routine for our home based around the natural flow of our household. But with our kids naturally feel safe in a routine, especially when they're young. When there's a routine, kids usually feel better and they usually feel safer. So having a routine is a really good thing. Now, I also have kind of like this home routine as well, and a lot of times it revolves around how I wake up. If I wake up knowing that I am going to have a high pain day, for instance, then my routine is going to be different than if I wake up with no pain. So I have different kind of systems in place and different routines in place for how I'm feeling physically. And if you are chronically ill, I highly suggest kind of getting that down, you know, like figuring out your natural rhythm with how you feel. And one of the things that I do is I always have a meal plan, and I always have a meal on standby. And basically that allows me, because I have nothing but boys in my house, I don't have chefs, I don't have girls who love to cook in my house. I also don't have any family nearby because we are a military family. So my closest family is 8 hours away. For me, I can't just call up my mom and say, hey, I can't make dinner tonight. And I can't eat food that I haven't cooked myself because of my condition. So what I have to do is I have to have meals ready to go in the freezer that my family can just pull out and make. So if I can't make dinner that night, my family knows that there's a casserole for them in the freezer that they can have, and I basically just have to worry about myself, which I can usually guide somebody through in the house if I need to. So having like easy meals on standby is like one of the best things I've ever done. And I don't know why I didn't do this when I was a young parent. Like, it's so easy. So a lot of times what I do when I make food is I make twice and freeze one of them. So I'll double batch food and freeze one of them in my deep freezer, and then I have like a meal on standby. It is a great system. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope that these tips helped you, especially if you are somebody like me and you have a chronic illness. Leave me a homeschooling tip down below in the comments, especially if you are a veteran homeschooler like me, because I know all these moms check the comments and there's been some great advice in these types of videos. Let me know down below in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.